The game of darts traces its roots to medieval England. Early forms of the game emerged as a pastime among soldiers during the 14th century. Archers would cut down arrow shafts and throw them at the bottom of wine barrels or sections of tree trunks. Over time, the natural rings in the wood were used as scoring areas. This rudimentary form of darts slowly evolved into a social game played in English taverns and inns. By the late 19th century, the game had taken hold as a popular pub activity. Wooden darts with feather flights became the norm, and pub owners began to standardize boards made from elmwood. Players would soak the boards overnight to preserve the wood and prevent cracking. The traditional dartboard layout, which features 20 numbered segments, began to appear more consistently during this period, though regional variations still existed. Darts remained a casual and locally governed activity until the early 20th century. Matches were mostly informal, with rules varying between establishments. It was during this time that the game's image as a working-class pub game became firmly established in British culture. The standardization of darts began in the early 20th century as the game transitioned from informal pub activity to organized competition. In the year 1923, a carpenter named Brian Gamlin from Lancashire is often credited with creating the modern numbering system used on dartboards. This layout was designed to penalize inaccuracy by placing low-scoring numbers next to high-scoring ones, thereby requiring skill and precision. As the game's popularity grew, standardized rules became essential. In the year 1924, the National Darts Association was formed in the United Kingdom. It established formal regulations for board dimensions, throwing distances, and scoring procedures. The standard throwing distance, known as the oche, was set at 7 feet and 9 1/4 inches from the face of the board. The dartboard diameter was standardized at 18 inches. Boards began to shift from traditional elmwood to bristle boards made from compressed sisal fibers, which offered better durability and required less maintenance. This shift also allowed for consistent gameplay across venues. During this era, organized leagues and competitions started to appear, primarily in working men's clubs and pubs across England. The British News of the World Individual Darts Championship, established in the mid-1920s, became one of the most prestigious tournaments of its time and helped drive the sport's early structure. The golden era of televised darts began in the 1970s and extended into the early 1980s. This period marked the sport's transformation from a pub-based pastime into a mainstream television spectacle across the United Kingdom. The catalyst for this transition was the establishment of the British Darts Organisation, or BDO, in the year 1973. Founded by Ollie Croft, the BDO centralised many existing leagues and introduced a formal structure for national and international competitions. This organisation played a key role in legitimising darts as a professional sport. In the year 1978, the first BDO World Darts Championship was held at the heart of the Midlands nightclub in Nottingham. It was televised by the BBC and won by Leighton Rees of Wales. The success of the event led to regular national broadcasts of major tournaments, with coverage by both the BBC and ITV. This exposure dramatically increased public interest and participation. During this time, charismatic players like Eric Bristow, John Lowe, Jockey Wilson, and Bobby George became household names. Their on-screen personas and fierce rivalries drew massive audiences. Darts broadcasts often attracted millions of viewers, with finals routinely exceeding 10 million in the United Kingdom alone. The format of televised darts was also refined during this era. The use of slow-motion replays, on-screen scoring, and expert commentary made the sport more accessible to casual viewers. Set and leg systems were standardized, and sponsors began to enter the scene, attracted by the sport's growing popularity. This golden era saw darts solidify its place in British popular culture, bridging the gap between pub competition and primetime entertainment. The decline and crisis era of darts began in the late 1980s and extended into the early 1990s. Despite the momentum of televised success, the sport faced a sharp downturn in public visibility and commercial support. Several key factors contributed to this decline. First, many major television broadcasters began to drop darts from their programming schedules. By the year 1989, ITV had ended its darts coverage, and the BBC soon reduced its broadcasting as well. The sport's television audience had fragmented, and sponsors withdrew due to falling viewership and perceptions of the sport as outdated and associated with smoking and alcohol. At the same time, professional players grew increasingly dissatisfied with the British Darts Organisation. The BDO was criticised for its limited prize money, inconsistent tournament schedules, and failure to adapt to the evolving media landscape. While other sports embraced modern broadcasting standards and corporate partnerships, darts remained stagnant. This period also saw a lack of new talent emerging and a generational gap in the player base. Many of the sport's original stars were aging, and there was no clear plan for development of young players or international expansion. By the early 1990s, prize pools had shrunk significantly, and professional opportunities were scarce. Players often had to supplement their income with other jobs. The professional circuit became unsustainable for many, and tension between top players and the BDO leadership reached a breaking point. The sport stood at a crossroads, with no clear vision for growth, reduced public interest, and dissatisfaction among its elite competitors. Darts entered one of the most uncertain periods in its history. The split era began in the early 1990s, triggered by growing frustration among top players with the British Darts Organisation's inability to modernise the sport. In the year 1992, a group of 16 leading players, including Phil Taylor, Dennis Priestley, and Eric Bristow, broke away from the BDO. They formed a new promotional body initially called the World Darts Council, or WDC, later renamed the Professional Darts Corporation, or PDC. The primary goal of the WDC was to restore televised darts and secure better sponsorship, prize money, and promotion for players. They launched their own tournaments, including the World Match Play and the PDC World Championship, which was first held in 1994. The BDO viewed the new organization as a direct threat and responded by banning the breakaway players from all its events, including the prestigious BDO World Championship and World Masters. This led to a prolonged legal battle over player eligibility and naming rights, known as the Darts Civil War. The dispute concluded in 1997 with the Tomlin Order, which recognized the PDC's right to exist and promote its own tournaments, while the BDO retained control over its traditional circuit. For nearly 2 decades, professional darts remained divided. The BDO and PDC operated parallel world championships, each claiming to crown the legitimate world champion. Players had to choose allegiance to one body or the other, and movement between the two was tightly restricted. This division deeply affected the sport. While the BDO retained its historic legacy and grassroots leagues, the PDC began to attract growing interest through aggressive marketing, commercial partnerships, and innovation in tournament presentation. Over time, this imbalance would shape the future direction of professional darts. Following its establishment, the Professional Darts Corporation steadily gained momentum throughout the late 1990s and into the 2000s. Central to this rise was the emergence of Phil Taylor as the dominant force in the sport. Nicknamed The Power, Taylor won the inaugural PDC World Championship in 1995 and went on to win 14 of the next 16 editions. Taylor's unmatched consistency, precision, and mental strength redefined professional darts. He recorded multiple televised 9-dart finishes and set scoring records that stood for years. His dominance elevated the profile of PDC events and drew increasing attention from broadcasters and sponsors. The PDC also modernized the sport's presentation. It introduced walk-on music, theatrical lighting, and stage design to create a more entertaining and spectator-friendly atmosphere. These innovations helped distinguish PDC darts from its BDO counterpart, appealing to a younger and more diverse audience. Financially, the gap between the two organizations widened. PDC prize money increased significantly year over year. By the mid-2000s, the PDC World Championship offered more than double the prize pool of the BDO equivalent. This attracted elite players from the BDO, including Raymond van Barneveld, who switched codes in 2006 after winning 4 BDO world titles. Sky Sports became a key partner in broadcasting PDC events, providing year-round coverage and introducing high-definition visuals, player profiles, and analytical commentary. Tournaments such as the Premier League Darts and the UK Open expanded the PDC calendar and introduced new competitive formats. By the end of this era, the PDC had overtaken the BDO as the premier professional darts organisation, both in terms of talent and global visibility. Phil Taylor's reign not only cemented his legacy, but also served as the foundation for the sport's rebirth in the modern era. With a solid foundation in place, the PDC entered a phase of rapid globalization in the late 2000s and early 2010s. The organization expanded its reach beyond the United Kingdom and Europe, targeting new markets in North America, Asia, and Oceania. This era marked a strategic effort to transform darts into a truly international sport. The the PDC introduced the World Series of Darts in the year 2013. This series brought top-ranked professionals to exhibition and competitive events in cities such as Sydney, Las Vegas, Shanghai, Dubai, and Tokyo. These events exposed local audiences to elite-level darts and helped cultivate new fan bases and player talent from around the world. At the same time, qualification systems were restructured to include international circuits. The PDC established regional tours, including the PDC Asia Tour, the Nordic and Baltic Tour, and the Championship Darts Corporation for North America. These tours offered ranking points and world championship spots to players from outside the traditional European base. The PDC World Cup of Darts, first held in 2010, became another key tool for international engagement. Featuring two-player teams representing their countries, it emphasized national pride and showcased emerging talent from nations such as Poland, South Africa, and the Philippines. The organization also invested in digital broadcasting, expanding coverage through streaming platforms and social media. This allowed darts to reach fans in regions where traditional television coverage was limited or non-existent. During this era, players like Michael van Gerwen, Gary Anderson, and Gerwyn Price emerged as global stars. Their success, combined with the international expansion strategy, helped shift the perception of darts from a British pub game to a competitive global sport with professional infrastructure. While the PDC continued to expand globally, the British Darts Organisation entered a prolonged period of decline that culminated in its eventual collapse. The warning signs began in the late 2000s as the BDO struggled to maintain relevance, sponsorship, and player retention amid the PDC's growing dominance. Key players defected to the PDC, drawn by higher prize money, better television coverage, and professional opportunities. Stars such as Mark Webster, Stephen Bunting, and Glenn Durrant, each former BDO world champion, made the switch, leaving the BDO talent pool increasingly depleted. Financial instability became a defining issue. The BDO's long-standing partnership with the BBC ended in 2016, removing its primary broadcasting outlet. Subsequent deals with lesser-known channels failed to deliver significant viewership or sponsorship. As a result, tournament prize funds were drastically reduced. In the 2020 BDO World Championship, players were paid significantly less than promised, and some were not paid at all. Administrative mismanagement further accelerated the decline. Leadership decisions, including venue changes, last-minute announcements, and inconsistent communication with players and fans, eroded trust within the darts community. In 2019, the BDO attempted to rebrand as the United Kingdom Darts Association, or UKDA, but the effort failed to gain traction. By 2020, the organisation faced insolvency. The final BDO World Championship, held at the O2 Indigo in London, drew low attendance and sharp criticism. Shortly after, the British Darts Organisation officially ceased operations. The collapse marked the end of an era. For decades, the BDO had been the gateway for grassroots players and a symbol of darts history. Its demise left a vacuum that was partially filled by the World Darts Federation and other independent promotions, but its legacy as the original governing body of professional darts effectively came to an end. In the early 2020s, darts entered a phase defined by statistical analysis, performance tracking, and a wave of young talent reshaping the competitive landscape. The use of data, such as first 9 dart averages, checkout percentages, and pressure metrics, became integral to player evaluation and commentary. Broadcasters and analysts began incorporating advanced stats into coverage, helping viewers understand performance beyond just final scores. Players and coaches also used this data to refine practice routines and in-game strategies. This period also witnessed the rise of a new generation of professionals, many of whom were born after the year 2000. Players like Luke Littler, Josh Rock, and Bo Greaves gained attention for their rapid scoring ability, composure under pressure, and readiness to challenge established stars. Their success was partly fueled by early exposure to structured youth systems, online match play, and modern training environments. Technology played a key role in this revolution. Online leagues, remote coaching tools, and streaming platforms allowed young players to compete globally without geographic barriers. Sponsorship and prize opportunities for youth players expanded, and age-restricted tournaments like the PDC Development Tour and JDC events became recognized pipelines into the professional game.